All right, good night to those who are here so far. Let's give it a few for others to join. Welcome to those who are here. See you're here. Let's just give it a few minutes for others to join. This is the first um, live on YouTube. The lives have been done in terms of the drive to educate the public. This is the first one for YouTube. There has been what, three so far on the Done Out the Law TikTok page, and this is the first on YouTube. I do know that not everyone, um, you know, uses TikTok, and I know a lot of the audience is also on YouTube. So I'm just trying to make sure that everyone gets, you know, well, yeah, Very Live. Yeah, Very Live was definitely here on YouTube. But what I meant is that in terms of a live session where it's all about education, not burial specific. Indeed. So let's give it a few minutes. Let's give it until next 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna get into it. We just want as many people as possible to be able to, you know, get the first bit of what's to be shared here tonight. So please don't feel afraid to share this live so as many people as possible can get the knowledge. The topic for tonight. So let's just go warm up until everybody else come. The topic for tonight is the right to equitable treatment by a public body in the execution of a function, as well as the police public interaction policy. All right. Some of you who have um, seen the lives on TikTok, that's been discussed, particularly yesterday. But we're gonna go into it and try to see, there's more to share. There's always a lot more to learn. So, you know, that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. Um, I'll take your questions as per usual. So shoot with your questions, but it's very, very, very critical. Like this information is something that, it's groundbreaking. A lot of the information that is to be shared here tonight, especially as it relates to the constitutional right to equitable treatment by a public body. So that's where we're going to, our discussion will lie. Jay, I see you. I see Chris Robinson. Fernando, I see you. Dwight, I see you. Um, I see you all. So again, share so others can. I don't want to others people to miss, even though the content will be posted um, right there on the Done All the Law page. But I want as many people to be able to get the content live. Otherwise, then they can catch the videos as it's uploaded. All right, so let's get into it. Welcome to everyone, and good night. And as I said, welcome to the first live stream where the intent here is to spread the gospel, spread my knowledge, and help you as best as I can. Now, be reminded that it's not everything that I can share. All right, I the content has to be controlled. I cannot share everything, but I will share as much as I can. The platform itself has its own guidelines, and all of those has to be followed. So let's say we're going to dive into um, the topic of the constitutional right, specifically the right to equitable treatment by a public body in the execution of its function. All right. And then we're going to go into the police public interaction policy. Yep. That is a policy document that I believe a lot of people are just learning about when I brought it to their attention, especially in the most recent videos. And that is a very powerful piece of policy document that guides, or I should say, ought to guide, how the police interact with members of the public. All right? So let's get into it. Now, there is a constitutional right that each and every one of us as Jamaicans have, and that is the constitutional right to equitable treatment by a public body in the execution of its function. Now, I'm a teacher too, so let's get into the session. Now, equitable, as is interpreted by the courts, and all of us might even have a basic idea what equitable means. Equitable is synonymous with equal. So, the constitutional right to equitable treatment by a public body, why this is groundbreaking is that back then, before July 15, 2024, yes, just the other day, our very courts have said, and this was something that was able to, the state, etc., was able to guard themselves behind and not to send out now worry about anything. You see, since July 15th of 2024 this year, just the other day, our Court of Appeal, in a groundbreaking ruling, overturned a long standing precedent whereby in the past, when someone stood and said that their constant claim that their constitutional right to equitable treatment was violated, the courts used to say, well, because the Constitution says the right to equitable and humane treatment by a public body in the execution of its function, the court used to say unless both you can prove that you are treated differently or inequitably, also inhumanely, then that right is not violated. The catch and the kicker and the shocker for the system, and I can't stand for the life of me not understand how come we not see some over press releases going out about this. I cannot understand why it is that since that ruling in July 15th, where the courts separate the equitable from the inhumane part of the right and say once the right to equitable treatment is violated, then there is no need for someone to prove they were treated inhumanely also. All right? So the Court of Appeal in that July 15th ruling, it's a case where from the Rasta girl, I don't know if anybody follow me with that case, where the locks, where the school had a policy about locks and all of that, and that the dreadlocks can't wear in a school. That's the case in that talk about. That's the case that broke or shattered that precedent. And so the Court of Appeal said, as long as someone can prove or establish that their constitutional right to equitable treatment was violated, then there's a remedy. And when we say equitable, mean what? Fair. So what that mean? How is that important to all members of the public bodies such as the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Tax Administration Jamaica, the parish councils, such as municipal corporations, etc., conduct themselves? It's important because of this reason. As long as you, a citizen, can prove or show that you have been treated differently by a public body in the execution of a function. Now, make me stick up in right there, so. Because some of you might be saying, what function mean? Well, in almost every act, law, and the Interpretation Act, whereby if a law not say otherwise, the Interpretation Act stands. In the Interpretation Act, and as I said, almost every law, Function is defined as it includes powers and duties. What that means, as far as I get it, function mean power, duty, responsibility, etc. So once a public body is executing a power or one of their duties given to them under law, the Constitution of Jamaica say that every person has the protection or the right to equitable. And we says equitable is synonymous with fair, equal, fair treatment. So as long as they can prove that a public body is dealing with you differently than how it would deal with someone else in a similar situation, hey, guess what? You have established that your constitutional right to equitable treatment has been violated. And holos tumble down. So how does this get even more shocking? There is a principle in law that we call agent-principal relationship. Yeah, what that mean? All of the about 13,000 constables that the Jamaica Constabulary Force have, for example, are all agents of the Constabulary Force. The law, the common law that is, what common law mean? Judges' interpretation of the laws, the Constitution, and so on. Yes? So the common law, and that is law, like any other law, yes? The Constitution says that where it relates to agent principle, oh, sorry, someone is messaging me, sorry, distraction. So where it relates to agent principal relationship, then anything the agent do, such as a constable, the principal is responsible. That's what it is. So when one constable do a Portland, if a constable in a St. Mary or Montego Bay, all right, me go Negril Point, in a similar situation do something different, and the same public body act differently, you know, have to do with the same agent, because an action by one agent is action by the principal. So that is why the force has a policy, and I said we are looking at the public interaction policy, which guides the, or which we can get into shortly, but that is supposed to be a guide to constables, you know, they conduct themselves. So remember, when the agent, by virtue of the agent principal relationship, when an agent take action, it's a principal that take action. So again, remember. So if even at a different concept in a Portland versus a different one in Nova, once there's a similar situation and they're acting differently, they have violated the constitutional right, which is why there is need for equitable treatment. And the force policy says that a constable, as a public interaction policy we're going to look at shortly, is very clear that every constable must respect the laws of Jamaica and the human rights of all Jamaicans. Now, we will get into when the Constitution say a constable can violate or infringe on a right. We could understand the context here. Now, the Constitution of Jamaica, under the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom, is very clear. It states in very clear language that save as that is demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. And the Constitution says so. It's a parliament shall take no action, shall pass no law, sorry, and no organ of state shall take any action which infringes on the fundamental rights of a citizen. And make so, and the Constitution. Repeat yourself. Save as may be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society, Parliament shall pass no law, and no organ of state shall take no action which infringes on the rights guaranteed in the Constitution. So all of you can look at that part of the Constitution. So getting into it now. Save has been demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society is very clear. The only time a constable or any public body can take any action that infringes on the fundamental rights, and we're focusing right at this minute on the right to equitable treatment by a public body. The only time they can infringe on the constitutional right to equitable treatment by a public body in the execution of a function is when them have demonstrably justifiable grounds in a free and democratic society. Not in an autocratic society, in a free and democratic society. And that is very clear language. So nobody no come try to think so Mr. Dunn is no idiot. Yes? And when I interpret, I'm interpreting my interpretation that I convey to the general public comes from case law, not just from my own head. So the constitution is clear. The only time you can infringe on a constitutional right is save where it is demonstrably justified. I know what the kicker now? Demonstrably justified could reasonably be wrapped up into these two words. You must have reasonable or probable cause. You following me, people? You got thumbs up if you're following. So I repeat, the Constitution is clear that if you don't have demonstrably justified grounds in a free and democratic society, no public body, no agent of a public body such as the JDC can take any action that infringes on your constitutionally protected rights. Which means if we take any action, there must be at the very least reasonable or probable cause. You know what that means? There's a live schedule on TikTok for Saturday. Navigate both platforms. Saturday at 7:10. I will be diving into reasonable probable cause. Now, reasonable probable cause on the surface, because we're going to dive in it on Saturday. That means that the constable has an honest belief. You hear the term say? Honest belief in the guilt founded on reasonable grounds that you are probably guilty of something. That is the legal definition of reasonable probable cause. So, an honest belief founded on reasonable grounds that you are probably guilty of something, an offense, for example. That is reasonable probable cause. That's the definition. So if a constable don't have an honest belief that you are probably guilty, yes, then him don't have reasonable probable cause to take any action. And remember, the Constitution says you must have, for a public body or an agent thereof, to infringe, to have any grounds to infringe on any constitutional right, there must be demonstrable justifiable grounds. And let me tell you, you see, demonstrably justified, the key word, demonstrably justified. That word demonstrable mean what? Demonstrate. You must be able to show, not just some hypothetical, oh, I receive information, and think that telling people about I receive information is demonstrable justifiable grounds. It's bull. The section 33, for example, of the Constabulary Force Act states in clear language, like a constable may be sued, and yes, personally, for taking any action, not some, any action, if it is malicious or without reasonable probable cause. And I say so, at the Constabulary Force Act. And that is obviously providing for and to be in alignment with the Constitution. So nobody not tell me about no constable can take any action without reasonable probable cause. No one law no govern all actions. Actions are governed by multiple statutes. Statutory interpretation is clear. Where multiple statutes govern the same area, the more specific statute takes precedence. and where the statutes are not in conflict with each other. Both statutes or all statutes that govern the area must be complied with. That is statutory interpretation. We all can go and look at case law on that matter. Yes? So, like I said, everybody have the right, a constitutional right to equitable treatment by a public body in the execution of its functions. And the Constitution provides that the only time any of those constitutionally protected rights can be infringed on is if a public body have demonstrably justifiable grounds. Now I know some of you forget briefly about what I said. Two things it says. It says Parliament shall pass no law and no organ of state shall take no action. So guess what now? No constable, no public body official, no officer of a public body can look at me and say, oh, the law says I don't. The law did not say I need reasonable probable cause. The Constitution says Parliament shall pass no law. That's the first thing. And it says, and, conjunction, no organ of state. The JCF is an organ of state. TAJ is an organ of state. The municipal corporation is an organ of state. So on and so forth. You get me? Yes? It says, and no organ of state. So when you tell me, say, oh, Parliament passed one law, for example, the Road Traffic Act, and it did not say I need reasonable probable cause. Remember, the Constitution say, and no organ of state shall take no action. Save has been demonstrably justified the grounds in a free and democratic society. And you see them words there? Free and democratic society. I'm not joke word them. Free and democratic society. That was intentional. What did they say in an autocratic society? Then demonstrable justifiable grounds in an autocratic society is different from demonstrable justifiable grounds in a free and democratic society. See keywords there? So in a free society now, nobody can tell me that any constable could have the power in a free society. They just willy-nilly step out into the road and stop somebody and infringe on their freedom of movement. Yeah? For example, just so, just randomly so, no grounds, no reason, no demonstrable justifiable grounds. Remember, this Jamaica is a free and democratic society, at the very least, in our constitution. Yes? So we have to be mindful of these provisions in law. And there is no exception. Now, if someone says, Mr. Dunn, the Road Traffic Act in Section 20 and Section 91 and Section 7, and the famous section them there, they did not say a constable need reasonable probable cause. Then Mr. Dunn will say this. If you believe that those sections of the law don't require you to have reasonable probable cause, then you know what the Constitution of Jamaica says? Any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is void. So if I say you choose to interpret it, if the law is inconsistent with the provisions provided by the Constitution, which is that no organ of state and Parliament shall pass no law, save as is demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Now the courts, and I can't get into this tonight, the courts use what is called the Oakes test to determine if a constitutional violation is demonstrably justified, an infringement, because it can be okay to infringe on the right. Another thing that the Constitution always says, the rights of one do not supersede the rights of many. So if it is a case where, in order to protect the rights of many, at that more point in time, there is something that is observed that could threaten the lives of many, then that is demonstrably justifiable grounds. So again, I know a lot of constables are here, our friends thereof, and the general public. But remember, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and it provides that save as may be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society, Parliament shall pass no law, and no organ of state shall take any action. Two things. No law no be passed, and separate and apart from that, no organ of state no be take no action unless some of demonstrable justifiable grounds. In other words, reasonable or probable cause. All right? Now, there's a principle in law. We're going to go to the public interaction policy shortly. There's a principle in law that is called, that is commonly used, that is called, it says, sorry, it says that a creature of statute, my brain is trying to find the Latin words for it, but let me keep that out of this slide and keep it basic. A creature of statute is bound by law. In other words, a creature of statute, meaning a public body, is a creature of law, meaning it was birthed from law. It came as a result of a law. It's not an individual, it's not a human. It's a creature of law. Because a law was passed, that's what gave rights to its existence. For example, municipal corporations, for example, the constabulary force, for example, TAJ, for example, different public bodies. All right? So, the principle of law, and we call that the legal sphere doctrine, legal doctrine. Creatures of law are bound by law. If the law does not provide for something, a creature of law can do otherwise. Only an individual can do something that the law don't provide for. So if the law don't say an individual can do something, that means that the individual can do it. But a creature of law is bound by law and can only do what the law expressly provides. Last place we see that apply is a case with NEPA and some other agencies. And NEPA was exercising a power under the Natural Resource Conservation Authority Act. And NEPA argued in the court that, Your Honor, the law did make it a criminal offense to build without an environmental permit where it applies. But the law did not say we can't give a permit after the person built. Well, the court said, you're blind. The law says it's a criminal offense to do it, which means the person is prohibited from doing it. So where you are come with your knowledge now, come and try to tell we say, you have the power to give a permit for something when the law says it's a criminal offense to do it before getting a permit. NEPA was arguing that, no man, because the law did not say we can't, then we can. The court said, if the law don't say you can, and the law places a duty on the person, on the individuals, to apply before the fact, then you don't have no power to grant no environmental permit for a construction that starts already. So that they're going to start over again. That's not what we're talking about. Let's use an example. That's the last time I saw where the court applied that principle. All right? So again, the principle is called, it says, creatures of law is bound by law. So they can only do what the law expressly provides. So the law says police have the power to request documents. Yes, them can request it. He never said they can stop if you request documents, just so. And remember, no law supersedes the Constitution. And anybody that argues that then don't need reasonable probable cause to take any action, tell them for a constable, for example, to take any action. Point to section 33 of the Constabulary Force Act. Because no section of the Road Traffic Act, for example, no say that the constable don't need reasonable probable cause. Not because I never put it in there because you need reasonable probable cause. The Constitution reigns supreme. And the Constitution states that you need, at the very least, demonstrable justifiable grounds, which is, you can say, once you have reasonable probable cause, then that equates to it. Thumbs up if you're following me so far. All right? Now, let's get into the public interaction policy of the JCF. I know many people are not familiar with that. That's what MRKG. I can't get into that tonight. There's many times to. I will host lives and many different times. I can't get into the zone of special operations. I can't get into that tonight. All right. So let's look at the public interaction policies now of the JCF. Now, the JCF has, ladies and gentlemen, a shocker, a public interaction policy. Now, that document can't find online so easy. You can't find many other. But this policy is so strict. It says any officer who acts contrary to the procedures laid out therein will face disciplinary action. And I missed it, so I policy. Now, this policy was passed in 2011. Yes, in conjunction with when the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom Constitutional Amendment Act 2010 was passed in law. Now, one of the key things, I'm just looking at a few of them tonight, because we look at other elements of the policy at other times. Now, there is a part of the policy that's not mentioned, stop and search. I mean, here some people like to say, stop and search. So if me not stop your and search, then that not apply. Hear me now, not to them now. When you ask for somebody document, what I do? No search. Instead of my inspect or them examine. So hear me now, no? So when you inspect and examine something, what I do? No search or search something. And I search that. So we are talking about. And then it says stop and search. It's a conjunction. It's just joining the situation. Stop and search. It is a conjunction. It's English language. You're not have to do the two of them. But if you're going to stop somebody, do this. If you're going to search them, do that. You know somebody that stop and or search? No, not necessary. It applies right through. And an inspection or an examination of any document is a search of a document. Is there anybody here in here can show me the judicial interpretation that say otherwise? Or an interpretation that say otherwise? If you look past something, what you do? And I'm looking at you, what you do? If you look for your, if you name and the date of birth and all that, something, what you do? No search and search with the eye. Yeah? Yep. All right. So, continuing, do's. The public interaction policy of the JCF says, in a stop and search situation, the do's, the first thing the constables do is they must greet the person as stated above. Stated above. What was above? The policy say in clear language. If you are greeting a regular person, they are to say, sir or madam. That's how they greet him. So, good morning, sir. Not even Mr. Good morning, sir. Or good morning, madam. You remember what policy said earlier? Anybody who are contrary to the procedures will face, disciplinary action. It says if they're greeting a prisoner, then they're to call the prisoner by their name. The prisoner will get sir or madam treatment. That's how you go. Prisoners' rights are suppressed by law, by constitution. So they're to do some greetings. Now here the policy is interesting other part. It says now that the constable is to tell them your name, rank. I'm reading now. You're to tell them your name, rank, number, and where you work. I'm going to repeat that for emphasis. Tell them your name, rank, number, and where you work. When a constable is interacting with the public, me and God and all I want to know, say most of the time, if not 90% of the time, only thing I hear is, I am constable this. Like, for example, I am Constable Hansen. And I name that. You know why the policy requires you to tell them a name? So I don't even look for if more sue you or if more lodge a complaint. I suppose they can tell your name when you ever file a complaint or if more sue you. Because I can't put Constable Hansen on a lawsuit. And failing to tell your name is a violation of policy. And that is why you record the interaction. So when you take that video to iProve, or if they will accept your statement at the station, then you can show them the constable and they can investigate and find them out. So the constable is telling name, rank, number. You know what the number stands for? Badge number. Yes? If they not tell all of that information, the policy itself say the constable will face disciplinary action. And I miss it up. It's a policy document. You can find excerpts of it online, not the entire policy. Yeah? So come to somebody and say, good morning, I am Constable Hansen. That not enough. Why your badge number? Why your full name? Nobody about constable and not the work. My name is Constable whatever Hansen. Full name. Some man can sue you. People can sue you without your name. I mean, and if you run up and down and look for you, no headache that. Just add that to the last one eventually when you find out the phone. Continuing. The next thing they have to do in a stop and search situation is based on the public interaction policy. Number 3 is there to tell motorists that you're conducting a security and vehicle safety check. Watch it out. Watch what the man them reach. That them always say the truth. Here the interesting thing now. Number 4, they are to explain why they have been stopped. Want to remember all the time when you hear me ask the constable them to tell me the reason for stopping me, and the policy tell them that. And it's also in alignment with the Constitution. It's also in alignment to give the demonstrable justifiable ground. It never said they must tell them, say, VCP and it top right there. So it said they must say you're doing a vehicle checkpoint and vehicle safety check, and they must after that they are to explain why they have been stopped. Hear the word? Explain. You know what explain mean in a dictionary? In detail, give the person the reason for stopping them. Now come skim the surface. Because remember, the burden of proof is on you, the individual who is suing a constable, if you choose to go that route. To prove that the constable did not have reasonable probable cause to stop you. Yes. But to protect you, you can only know that the person did not have reasonable probable cause based on how they explain themselves. You follow me? So if all about today is I receive information, that no cut it. That is not an explanation. You receive information. Sometimes I don't know if you're watching one of the videos. I think it's with a Brown Constable, Douglas, etc. And I'm like, so did you believe that this is a vehicle? You believe that information? Because remember when I said that, when I defined reasonable probable cause to you, it's defined as having an honest belief in the guilt of that person, founded on reasonable grounds, that person is probably guilty. You know, if you're guilty, probably guilty. So you see the source of the information, you look at case law. Like I said, I have a different session lined up on TikTok for Saturday at 7:10 to look at that. Yeah, man, we'll come to YouTube too. All right, and navigating both platforms. All right. But the constable can't just be just giving you some surface information about I receive information and think that is sufficient. Because I've seen too many case laws where the court say a reasonable person would not believe that that information is true. And believe that that information amounts to reasonable probable cause. At the very least, the information might amount to reasonable suspicion. But it don't reach all the way up to reasonable probable cause for you to be able to go and search people, vehicle, person, or property. Yes? That's a standard. You might, if somebody call the phone, again, we'll get into that on Saturday. For those of you who want advance on it, join us on TikTok on Saturday. All right? Continuing. Explain why they have been stopped. That is separate and apart from tell motorists that you're conducting security and vehicle safety check. Different. I mean, I think if you elaborate on what we explain mean. When I get it, not true. They must give detailed reason, define explanation to anybody from the Oxford Dictionary. The courts use the Oxford Dictionary and sometimes Black's Law Dictionary in Jamaica. These are two good sources. Because where the law does not provide a definition, the court look at the plain meaning. So when somebody say, explain why you did it like that. Okay, I did it like this because I got some information from a credible source. Blah, blah, blah. I want to give you no shock now for all the constables that are here. You see, anytime somebody sue you in a civil court, you not go on like, you like to hide behind the source and information. You better provide it. Because in a civil court, you're going to have to, in your defense, once the person prove their prima facie case against you, that you didn't have reason for the cause. In your defense, you're going better fling your source. When they come with them makeup, you know they make up the story them most of the time, you know that. Them know what I mean what to. Yeah. So Like I said, making up a story. I receive information, no worry. Because if I one thing me know, the police human rights and use of and firearm policies say, if you get information, tell me I've got men coming to the devil arm with firearms. The use of force and firearm policies say they are to communicate over the radio so that the central place that connect radio communication. Yeah? So adept with the name what them call it. But the central place where they collect radio information will have a record of it. So think you can hide behind your receive information when you want to tell people bull to violate people's rights. Remember constables that are on here that your policy says you are to show respect for the constitutional rights and they are to uphold the constitutional rights. And the Constitution places a duty on you as an agent of the JCF. It's on the JCF, therefore, based on the agent principal relationship, principle of law. It's the duty is also on you as a constable to uphold the constitutional rights, to protect them of all citizens, of all persons in Jamaica. So this is also for you. You don't want to lose a job. Remember, it's a 5-year contract. Section 5 of the Constable Force Act. No constable can be employed beyond 5 years. That's why you're subject to review. Yes? And after that review, if somebody, remember now, a constable have to have unquestionable character. So when somebody lodge a proper complaint against you, why that character unquestionable again? And guess what? The 5-year contract. So need I say more? No renewal night. Yes? Continuing. The policy says no one should be kept. This is going to be one shock of it all I want to know. Brace for this one. In the do's in a stop and search situation. No one should be kept more than 5 minutes. Except in furtherance of an issue that arises. Want to hear that? So when turn on the clock, put the record and start record everything. And turn on the clock. I want to see them take more than 5 minutes. Because you know why 5 minutes makes sense? Because you're not supposed to go on a witch hunt. You're supposed to know what you're looking for. That is why 5 minutes makes sense. You're supposed to know why you stop the person. Not tell them what you want to see on license. Because a searcher try search. And why you want to search my license. Don't tell me because you have the power to do so. Because that's not demonstrable justifiable grounds to violate the freedom of movement as provided by the Constitution. And when you decide to go stop randomly anybody you don't like. Sorry, yes. And a man can prove, say, another day, then another man behind him pass. I never stop him in a similar situation. You know what happened to that? You violate equitable treatment by a public body. That's a constitutional guarantee to every citizen in Jamaica. Yes? I hope it is sinking in. Now, remember, no one should be kept more than 5 minutes. So guess what? The whole of man more than 5 minutes now one stop and search. And remember now by that, a search of your driver's license, a request of using their power under section 20 of the Road Traffic Act to request their documents is a search of your documents. Where you want to look for it? I'm going to search, I want to search it. Now look, you want to look for information for probably right for one ticket. No search it, try search it, star. We don't look on that bed that we are doing. No search and search. We're not looking at man house we are doing. No search and search. No dig and dig for something. Come on, come on, sense. No because it not say so. Yep. And remember for those who are here, Humans versus Attorney General is still good law in Jamaica, as far as I can tell. Because nothing in the new Road Traffic Act nullifies anything that was said in Humans versus Attorney General, or overrides, or disagreed, or change anything that was said in Humans versus Attorney General. So you see me, based on my knowledge, or my little 2 cents of law, that is still binding precedence. And once a man place is that as his authority and assert it and stop and say, officer, under the authority of Humans versus the Attorney General, I refuse to give you my documents and my driver's license because you do not have reasonable suspicion or reasonable or probable cause. And when you go to court, no man can beat you. That is your defense. No, not plead guilty. Me would plead guilty. But that is my defense. That because the concept of you make it go a trial, man. And when they don't, you could claim for your lost wages and all that. Yeah, man. We'll go into that another time. So continuing. Remember now, we're just thinking. The policy says no one should be kept more than 5 minutes, except in further ones of issue that arise. And that is reasonable. That comes right after it says explain why they have been stopped. Because they're not supposed to go on a witch hunt. Just like how just Inspector Brian did the other day, him and his crew, and them witch hunt. You're supposed to know where to stop the person for something legitimate, and if when it's done, it's done, and you let them go. Now, sit down, boy, dig up and look for someone like, I want to take this thing from man. This is a constitutional monarch. Let's continue. Number 6, weapons should be pointed in a safe direction unless you intend to shoot. That is a public interaction policy, gentle people. And do's in a stop and search. Your weapon is to point in us, you know, pointing in a man's face, like you're a bad man. Yep, a pointing in a man's face. I do man in face, gun. Your policy says weapon should be pointed unless you away in a safe direction. Unless you intend to shoot. The safe direction can't be in a somebody forehead. Or in chest. You point that, keep that in your holster or point it at ground. Not in a person's face. Unless you intend to shoot, the weapon should be kept in a safe. So basically, as far as me concerned, once a policeman points the gun at you, because you have to assume that he's following the policy, then I shoot him, intend to shoot. And I think I see a video with a guy on TikTok that God have mercy. Then based on the policy, and one have to assume that the constable is obeying the policy, it is clear that the constable must intend to shoot. Otherwise, he's violating the policy. All right? And the man will ride the ball out. Because that's what the policy said. Weapons in a stop and search, and that's what was happening. Weapons should be pointed in a safe direction unless you intend to shoot. And I miss this off at the policy. All right? Continuing. So, yes, for those there, the case is Hemans versus the Attorney General. It's a 2013 case. It went all the way to the Court of Appeal in a 2015 ruling for that similar case. And the Court of Appeal affirmed everything that was said in that case. So that is still good law, as far as I can tell. Until another court strike that down, people, you can rely on that case in good faith. Just forget about the people, the constable, and what try to tell us that they don't need reasonable suspicion or reasonable problem because we ask for your documents. Paragraph 58 in the Hemans versus the Attorney General tell you that. Yes? Let me cite something else in the early part of that judgment that the judge said in that case. The judge said, that's Justice Bat, or let me say, the court said, keep more powerful coming home to you. The court said, while lawfully driving his motor vehicle, the claimant, that is Mr. Hemans, the claimant was entitled to know that his constitutional rights to freedom of movement will be respected. Remember the words. While lawfully driving his motor vehicle, the claimant was entitled to know or to be assured that his constitutional right to freedom of movement will be respected. So once you lawfully drive your motor vehicle, no constable, nobody not tell me about that case I talk about stop and search because stop search of a vehicle or documents is looking at the documents, is searching the documents. Yes? You are entitled to know that your constitutional right to freedom of movement will be respected. So yes, like I said to many people on TikTok last night and Sunday, driving is not a constitutional right. But moving freely through Jamaica while driving is a constitutionally protected right. If you can't sort it in the head, try again. Driving is not a constitutional right. Moving freely through Jamaica is a constitutional right. Driving is one way in which people move freely throughout Jamaica. Yes, driving is a regulated activity, but the concept once your police put up him on as to stop, the, your freedom of movement is engaged, and therefore, like I said earlier, your the constable must at that point have demonstrable justifiable grounds. And I also want to remind us all, I'm not done with the public interaction policy elements yet, that the when it comes to demonstrable justifiable grounds, your driver's license is defined by virtue of the Interpretation Act as property. You know why your driver's license is defined as property? And therefore, you also have a constitutional right to protection from search of your property. It is property because the Interpretation Act defines property as an interest in something. So, because you have an interest in the driver's license, meaning you have some claims to the driver's license, it doesn't have to be absolute. Then that's why it is a property right, and it's property. And so your driver's license is defined as property under the Interpretation Act. Yes, it's a permit, but a fair property. Whose land title it is? Who give it to you? Who issue it? A government? A government land title or a fair? A fair. You can do whatever you want with it. The only time your land title can be seized is by due process of law. Because the Constitution provides that no property right can be infringed on except by due process of law. And so, as a result, if you look in the Road Traffic Act 2018, you will see the due process of law outlined in there under what condition your license can be seized. Just like under what condition your passport can be seized. How a passport? I got my passport I feel. Tell me now. And them issue it, but I feel. You get it? Yep. Good. Continuing. So remember, weapons should be pointing in a safe direction. In a safe direction. Unless you intend to shoot. That's what the policy says. Now let us look at one of the don'ts. Under the public interaction policy of the JCF. Don't seize, this is what the police know. Don't seize driver's license other than that of a person whose license has been revoked. So when the police never take people driver's license, like oh Inspector Brian, thief mine out of my pocket. I have some people that go say, oh, stop telling talk about the man thief. Because thief under the law in the act means that it must be permanently taken, or the intention is to take it permanently. So I said to the persons that are commenting and so on. I said, you know what permanently mean in the law? You never read one case law yet to know what define permanent? We read many. I don't come talking about things that I don't know. I don't have legal backing in terms of case law. Case law say, as long as you take something without permission and you move it from one place to another, no matter how long, a thief, the movement of it from one place to the other. I have a post on TikTok. I'm gonna post it on YouTube right now. When I'm done. Yeah? To define theft or larceny. As long as you take something without permission, which is my license, that is what he did. They will see me taking ticket to Walton back and thief it out. So as long as you take it without permission and you move it from its original place to another place, no matter how long, case law say that is larceny. So the permanent element of it is the taking from it from one place to another. Because I say to those people that are asking the question. So then, you are telling me, say, based on the interpretation, again, may I use case law, then I use film, regular interpretation. Because one thing I know about the law is that whatever the intent of the law is the law. So when you read it and you read it, and when I read it, if the intent of it not makes sense, then yeah, it not makes sense. Whatever you're trying to interpret. So then, as it relates to larceny, once you take something from its original position and bring it to another place, that is theft. And that fulfills the requirement of taking something without permission or lawful justification permanently. It does not need to be you take it or you intend to take it forever. Because if a man take your car from your yard and carry it somewhere and keep it for 10 days, and the intention was to keep it for 10 days, where 10 days, and the last thing is that, because he never keep it forever, the intent of the law could not be that somebody that permanently mean keep it forever. So case law clarify that. Yep, I'll post it on the site. I already have it on TikTok because I was responding to someone on TikTok. All right, continuing. So remember, your driver's license ought not to be seized, except somebody whose license have been revoked. So when him take it out of my pocket, him seize it, him thief it, him violate the policies of the JCF. So all the people money say I'm a suspension. Even if I get suspension, I'm certain say the complaint will lead to, at the very least, some demotion in rank and reassignment, which is even more significant than a suspension. All right? So I'm not talking about things that I wish or hope. When I speak with the backing of case law. And the one thing we know the Constitution say, the court is the supreme interpreter of all laws. So anything the court say law say, I same thing. No matter what you want thinking of your brain. If you feel like you disagree with the court interpretation, guess what? You have the right to go to court and argue your position so that the law can be changed. That is case law. The written law not change, but the case law will change. And whatever case law say the law is the law. Not tell me what written law say if case law say it is something else. All right? If you want to change it, go argue it in a court. And I say until somebody overturn that precedent that is set, anything where that law said for a long time stands unless Parliament pass some statute that would change that common law provision, which is case law. Yes? Um, and say otherwise. So remember, Section 20 of the Road Traffic Act, yes, it gives the constables a power to request documents. But they never give them power to stop and request documents without reasonable probable cause. It's just like a power, the power to let me talk about another. You see, the power to say to stop. That's section 91. Now, in section 91, I recognize a lot of constables are coming down, guys, are winding down, approaching the 1 hour mark. In section 91 of the RTA, Road Traffic Act, I see a lot of constables like to use that. Me see them, you know. Me see them. The people them send me the ticket. I've seen them. And I've heard of the encounters. They like to use Section 91 out of context. I want to remind them that Hemans versus the Attorney General, which was 2013, Justice Batts interpreted Section 91 of the 2018 Road Traffic Act in the 2013 case. Some people might confuse. Why? Are the same words were in a 2013 in the old Road Traffic Act and put back in the new Road Traffic Act. That was currently in the old Road Traffic Act, it was Section 58. In the new one, it is Section 91. Justice Batts had interpreted that provision and said, because some people were saying that that provision give the constable the power to stop and search. The judge said, no, the Road Traffic Act not give such power under that section. Constables are to remind themselves, and you all too, that Section 91 of the Road Traffic Act says this. I'm just, it's not word for word, all right? Any person driving a motor vehicle shall obey any direction given by a constable in the execution of his duties to stop the vehicle, move the vehicle left or right, keep the vehicle stationary, blah, 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 with the vehicle. You know what Mr. Constables I do? I give people tickets for failing to comply with the command of constable. Because that is where that failing to comply provision comes from. When the individual themselves don't comply, not the vehicle, not without the vehicle, you know. The individual not comply with something what the constable tell them to do, and the constable will say, go over to the right. Yeah? Or the constable will say, sir, step out of the way. Or sir, give me a document, and then give them a ticket for failing to comply with the commands of a constable. That part of the law gives you some power to direct the vehicle. And remember now, the common law is that no power can be exercised arbitrarily. For those who want case law, look at the case of Jamaicans for Justice versus the Police Service Commission and another 2019 JCPC, the Privy Council case, paragraph 23 and 24. Our court made it abundantly clear that the JCF and all public bodies must conduct themselves in a way that shows respect for the Constitution and the constitutional right to equality before the law protects from arbitrary exercise of power. And I mean so. And remember, anything the court say are the law are the law. That we call case law. All right. So remember now, arbitrary exercise of power. The court even went further by saying, even though it's a constitutional right, protected right, that no power should be arbitrary exercised towards a person, a citizen. The court said the common law, which is again judge-made law, still remains that no public body is to take any action arbitrarily. None. That means what? For it not to be arbitrary, random, willy-nilly, based on hunch, feelings, emotions, you must have reasonable cause. And no, the section of the law that give you the power is not what is reasonable cause. Like many people in consider, like they tell me. Mhm. That is not your cause. That is your power. It's part of your grounds for your action, but it's your power. Your grounds must include both the um, factual reasons or factual statements and the law that supports your action. That's what grounds is. All right. So what's the factual basis and the legal basis that our grounds mean? All right. So don't tell nobody say section 20 is the cause. That alone is not justification. That alone not give this demonstrable justifiable grounds in a free and democratic society. Viewers, tonight was about talking about the public interaction policy and specifically the right to equitable treatment by a public body in the execution of a function. A function is defined again as a power and duty. So, when the constable decides to exercise a power, such as the power to request documents, then such power must be exercised based on the public interaction policy in accordance with the Constitution and the laws. Such power must be exercised in an equitable way. What one constable in Portland do, if another one in a similar situation do otherwise, that is a violation of your right to equitable treatment by a public body. Because based on the principle of agent-principal relationship, what is done by one, what is done by the agent is an action of the principal. There are certain exceptions, yes, but broadly speaking, what is done by the principal, by the agent, is an action by the principal. All right? Any question? There are many more lives to go into people. There's a lot to learn. I've only touched the tip of the public interaction policy. There's a lot more to it. There's a whole lot more to it. And I will share in the various live sessions that I will have with you here on YouTube and on my TikTok page. Sorry, people. I don't have the time to deal with Facebook and all the other pages. I don't have the time for those. So I choose two and I work with the two. If I get time or have assistance, then I will activate the Facebook, well, use the Facebook page and other pages and Instagram and all those pages. But until then, the two pages are done out of the law. It's here on YouTube and on TikTok. Done audit the law. Again, many more lives to come. For those of you who are here on Saturday at 10 o'clock, we'll be live at 7:10 p.m. All the lives are at the same time. say we're provided, say said otherwise. We'll be live on TikTok about details on what reasonable probable cause is. On Wednesday, tomorrow at 7:10 p.m., there's a live on TikTok schedule on claim form. That will be the first one. We won't be able to finish everything on tomorrow. 2 hours of live. That will be on a claim form where I'll start to teach you about claim form and how to create one. All right? Any questions? I will take the questions now. If you have any questions, I'll take them now. You can just show them in your. Thank you very much. I appreciate that you guys appreciate what I'm doing. I am doing this from the bottom of my heart, as a Jamaican. I'm doing this as a member of the public. It was a duty to hold public bodies accountable. I'm not. I don't hate constables. I work with constables all the while. Some of them, some good, some bad. And guess what I've learned? As far as I'm concerned, it look like I one of the constables in the know that. It look like almost sorry. Look like a majority didn't know that or understand it. All right. So the yes, can we get a copy of the public interaction policy? Send me. All right. So if you want a document in law and you can't find it, there's an email address for the Ministry of Justice, access information. They respond very quickly. They give you like whenever I request a law, a copy of a law or a policy or something, they give it very quickly, like in the same day. So if you want to get that email address, you can access any copy of any law, policy, document, blah. You can send me an inbox me. My email address is for Donald Law page specifically is jermaindunn5421 at gmail.com. I repeat, Jermaine Dunn, that's JERMAINE DUNN 5421 at gmail.com. All right? You can send me a message on YouTube or on TikTok, anywhere there, and ask me, and I will send you the email address that you can seek that information. All right? Fortunately, the public human rights and use of force and firearm policy is online, but the public interaction policy is only online in very bits and pieces. Don't ask me why, and I'm not going to make any accusations. All right? Yes. I know yesterday on TikTok, I'm closing, guys. I'm looking for the questions. Um, yeah, man. Please, triple RH claim form. TikTok live tomorrow at 7:10. TikTok done out of the law. That will be the first session on claim form. One will be scheduled here on YouTube too, but that hasn't been scheduled yet. All right. I have to navigate the two platforms. All right. Um, how does it apply to PPV? Can you stop at any time? PPV. I'm going to host a live session and I'm going to announce it specifically for PPV operators because a lot of PPV operators have reached out, and I really have decided in my mind to address you all specifically. So I'm going to have to, because it's not just the Road Traffic Act that governs PPV. There's also the Transport Authority Act. And there is a power in Section 13 that gives the constable the power to inspect, to stop, clear language, to stop a PPV vehicle in Section 13 of the Transport Authority Act to check if it is compliant with the Road Traffic Act. Yeah. So that power now, you see, there's like I said, I can't talk about, I'm not going to go into it tonight, but just on the surface of it, it, with that power, remember, no power can be exercised arbitrarily, you know. So even though the power is given, it's not given arbitrarily. So there's still the basis for reasonable suspicion and reasonable probable cause. Yes? To go and check to see if the vehicle is compliant with the Road Traffic Act. But again, I will come and I will address that. I will announce a live for both platforms to deal with that element, because it's not just the RTA, it's also the Road Traffic Act. We have many lives to come, gentle people. We look at the um, firearm act. We look at I see the emails coming in, guys. I see them coming in. I will definitely reach out. All right. We look at the Firearm Act. We look at many laws. Gentle people, the Constitution now will protect you if you're in violation. You know? So make sure say on the straight. Make sure say we not carry the firearm them and not travel with the firearm or have no illegal firearm in a country because the Constitution now going protect you when the police them right. You have to remember now that this education is not just for you, the regular citizen or the civilian. It's also for constables. And they are going to now know. And I will say, in closing, that there was a recent case, it was broadcasted in the media, where there was a scammer who the police found with everything enough to sink him. He could even breathe. But he go hire one lawyer we having head pan him body. And the lawyer could argue, you search the man house without a warrant. The other man who got court and say, so the man get called up. And the lawyer said, Mr. Clark, can I see a copy of the warrant? And he can't produce the warrant. Hear the lawyer though. You know when I move a motion for this case to be dismissed, for my client to be discharged, and for a formal plea, for a formal not guilty plea to be entered, as well as an acquittal. Why? Didn't have the warrant. So therefore, as far as the law is concerned, you shouldn't even know so them scamming material in there. So I am saying, get it right, constables, and you can hold on to the criminals and solve crimes. Yep. Get it right. Follow the law. Because if you don't follow the law, a man can pay them 100,000 hire sensible attorneys who can go and argue the case done before it starts. Just like that ticket where they give me during that interaction with Inspector Brian, they're at dope over the border. That ticket not going away. But hear what, viewers, subscribers. I am not going to ask for the charge to be dismissed. I am going to send that one straight to trial because I am going to use the inferior court, the RM court, Supreme Court pack-up man, as a court of first instance to teach Inspector Brian and his crew a constitutional lesson in the court. Yes, I may represent myself. Constitutional attorneys. There is a principle in law that says only a fool and himself as a lawyer in a defense. But this one is not fool in this case. This is one of those petty cases, petty actions, plain and simple case. Yeah, that case now go nowhere, and I will use it as a teaching moment for the Portland police and the police in the entire Jamaica. Those on the municipal corporation who is waiting to hear me attack them with some of the truth tonight, Portland Municipal Corporation, this is not your night. Check me on Saturday on TikTok Live, where I'll talk about reasonable probable cause. All right? Any questions? Or someone to repeat your email? It's jermaine.dunn5421 at gmail.com. All right? That's my email address. I'll see you all. Happy to have you all here. I'll see you. The next live will be scheduled. I believe I'll do the next live here on Sunday, because I have one for TikTok on Saturday. So I'll have one for Sunday, 7:10 p.m. But you'll see it in the schedule. Thank you for being here. Have a blessed night and see you next time. Who's that? Please come to Mobile. Oh, I come to Mobile, man. Airport.